The storm was unforgiving. Lightning clawed across the night sky, illuminating the vast Montana wilderness in erratic bursts. Beneath the roar of thunder, a sound unlike anything earthly tore through the darkness, a screeching whine followed by a tremendous impact. Trees cracked, birds exploded from their perches, and a glowing trail of smoke marked the sky's wound. Several miles away, deep in his weather-beaten cabin, Elias Monroe looked up from his workbench. The lights flickered. His dog, Scout, whined and padded over nervously. "That wasn't thunder," Elias muttered, grabbing his coat. Years of isolation hadn't dulled his instincts. A former combat medic turned recluse, Elias knew an emergency when he heard one. He slung his pack over one shoulder, grabbed a flashlight, and set out toward the source of the crash. He didn't know then that his life was about to change forever. It took nearly an hour of trudging through wind, rain, and underbrush before he found the impact site. The crater smoldered with faint blue light. Trees were flattened in a rough semicircle, and at its heart lay a metallic object, half submerged in the earth, cracked open like an egg. It wasn't a satellite or any earthly craft he recognized. The alloy shimmered with colors he couldn't name, and strange glyphs blinked weakly along the sides. Elias scanned the wreckage and froze. Inside the ruined craft, barely clinging to life, was something that looked almost human. She was crumpled against the interior wall, chest rising shallowly. Her skin shimmered faintly, a pearlescent hue like moonlit silver. A long gash ran from her temple to her collarbone, revealing faint traces of a glowing blue vascular system beneath. One arm was twisted unnaturally. Her eyes fluttered open as Elias approached, brilliant amethyst wide with pain. She spoke, but not in any language he recognized. The words were soft, desperate and slurred. Elias didn't hesitate. "I've got you," he whispered. He wrapped her in his emergency blanket, careful not to touch any broken bones. The rain hissed as it hit the hot metal around them. Whatever this woman was, whatever species she belonged to, she was dying. And he wouldn't let that happen. Not again. Back at the cabin, he laid her out on his table, sterilizing tools and muttering to himself. Her breathing was ragged, and her wounds had begun to pulse with strange hues, warning signs of internal shock, or its alien equivalent. He didn't know her anatomy, but blood was blood, muscle was muscle, and pain was pain. His hands moved instinctively. Elias cleaned the wounds, set the arm as best he could, and stitched the gash with the steadiest hand he'd had in years. The glowing blue of her blood smeared his gloves, strangely warm and almost alive. She winced as he worked, murmuring in that soft, unintelligible language, but she didn't resist. Took hours. When he finally stepped back, drenched in sweat and exhaustion, she was breathing evenly. Sleep. Life. She didn't wake for 2 days. Elias kept her warm, fed her soup with an eyedropper, and checked her vitals hourly. Each time he looked at her, he felt a strange tangle in his chest, curiosity, awe, and something deeper. When her eyes finally opened again, the fear was gone. She stared at him, studying his face with remarkable clarity. He offered her water. She took it with shaking hands. "You're safe," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." She blinked slowly and then pointed at herself. "Sarah. Sarah," he repeated. "I'm Elias." She smiled faintly, then winced in pain. They spent the next week teaching each other names of objects, slowly building a shared vocabulary. She learned water, food, pain, and thank you. He learned her species name, Veari, and that she was a scout, not a soldier. Her crash wasn't intentional. Something had sabotaged her ship. They wanted me to fail, she said one night, voice hoarse but stronger. Political conflict. I was inconvenient. Elias watched her from across the table. They tried to kill you. Syrah nodded. And Earth was not supposed to be first contact. But it was closest. She looked away ashamed. You weren't meant to know we existed yet. Elias chuckled softly. Too late for that. Over the following weeks, her wounds healed rapidly. Faster than any human's. The shattered arm had mended with a strange, crystal-like brace she grew beneath the skin. Her reflexes returned, her muscles regained strength, and soon she could walk again, leaning only slightly on a makeshift cane. But she didn't try to leave. Instead, she learned how to cook, helped Elias chop wood, watched old Earth movies with a hunger in her eyes. And sometimes, when she thought he wasn't looking, she stared at him as if memorizing the lines of his face. One night, as the fire crackled and wind howled outside, she asked, "Why did you help me?" Elias paused. "Because you were dying." Her expression was unreadable. "You didn't know me. I could have been dangerous." "You were," he said with a smirk. "You still are. But I've seen people bleed out in sand and snow. Screaming. Alone. I couldn't let that happen again. Not if I could stop it." Syrah's eyes softened. She stood slowly, walked over, and placed a hand on his cheek. "No one in my world would have done that. Not without profit. Not without orders." "Well," Elias whispered, "welcome to Earth." They kissed for the first time 2 days later. It was awkward, hesitant, beautiful. Syrah laughed afterward, flustered and glowing. "Your customs are strange." "So are yours," Elias replied. They spent the night wrapped together under thick blankets, sharing stories. Syrah spoke of oceans that stretched across moons, of beasts with wings like stars, of cities that floated in the clouds. Elias told her of Earth's wars, of its music, of the taste of fresh peaches in summer. She said, "Your world feels real. Flawed. But real." He held her closer. "So do you." But peace couldn't last forever. One morning, a pulsing beacon lit up on Syrah's arm. Her ship, now buried under snow and branches, had finally reactivated its distress signal. Someone was coming. "I must leave," she said, panic in her voice. "If they find me here, find you, they may erase everything." "You mean kill me," Elias said bluntly. She looked away. "Or worse, make you forget I existed. You're not going alone." "I have to." He stepped forward, voice firm. "Then I'm going with you." Her eyes widened. "Elias, you're human. You wouldn't survive the trip. And my people, they wouldn't accept us. Then we'll make them." That night, they dug out the rest of the ship. It was mostly useless except for the core, a crystalline orb that thrummed with energy. Syrah interfaced with it, hands glowing. A projection formed, an image of her home world, and then her superior officers, shimmering in the air like ghosts. "What is this?" one barked. "You're alive." Syrah stood tall. "I am. And I request asylum on Earth." Murmurs. "Unacceptable. Earth is not sanctioned for contact." "You tried to kill me," she interrupted. "Your own scout. Earth saved me. He saved me." She stepped aside, revealing Elias. There was silence. Then one voice, a calm, authoritative tone. "Bring him. We will determine his fate." Syrah turned to Elias, fear creeping into her features. He smiled. "I'm not afraid." They stepped through the portal together. What awaited them was uncertain. Judgment, maybe prison, or worse. But Syrah held his hand, and Elias gripped hers back. Because love, born not of duty, politics, or war, but of raw,